Good morning.
Morning.
Hello, my name is Morgan Jenkins, and I did my project for oral history on my grandfather, John Ault. John Ault was in the Korean War. May I begin?
Yes.
Oral history. Oral history is someone, when they interview someone when they did something important back in history. They were in a war, they immigrated, they were part of the government, etc. Oral history is important because when the person's retelling this person's story, they can show emotional feelings. They're retelling another person's story, and it's really important because you're learning about this new person, and you get to learn about their pastime and more about them. John Ault was born in Buffalo, New York, August 27th in 1933. He grew up with his older sister, his mom, and his dad. When he was 12, this tragic life experience happened to him. His father passed away with cancer. John was devastated. His sister was 13 years older than him, so she was already moved out by the time. It was just him and his mom. He was working really hard. His mom always gone as a waitress, and he was always in school and came home to a home with his aunt and his two cousins because they shared a home for the rent would cost as much. When John turned 19, he got a job as a merchant marine. He was sailing Lake Erie. After one day, he called his mom to ask her how she was doing. And she told him, "You got a draft notice saying you will be drafted into the Korean War." John had 20 days to pack up, learn the language, and say goodbye to his family before departing to Korea. On the day of his departure, it took 19 days to get to Korea. The boat was full of strangers, thousands of people on the boat. They took a stop in China to pick up some supplies, weapons, clothing, etc. When they got there, they arrived in Busan, Korea at nightfall, always on the move. When they started to settle into the troops, John's first job was a cook at the combat zone. He cooked for the other men for the American troops and had that for about a couple months. After, he switched jobs and was a prison guard. They went out on these tanks, and they had to pick up the prisoners of Korea and put them back in their place. The president of Korea, Syngman Rhee, released all of the prisoners before the American troops arrived. This made it harder because American troops had to go out, capture them Korean citizens, and put them back in their place. This was John's least favorite job because he did not like to. The men were very mean and they were cursing in Korean, and he can tell that they were saying very crude words and that they didn't want them there. John did not like this at all because he felt threatened, and some of the men even threatened to kill him. They had weapons. John's best part that he had in Korea was leaving. He missed his family so much, and he really needed them. The transition was really different because he went from a normal lifestyle, going to work every day, just living his normal life, into a completely different place. Always alert and thinking about his family because he missed them. He was away from them. He only knew a couple people. The president of America at the time was Harry Truman. The Americans served in the Korean War were 1,789,000 Americans that served into the Korean War. Roughly 33,686 Americans died in battle. Total Americans dead and lost in the war were 50,000. And women were only allowed to help the sick men, and they were like as a nurse. I'm going to explain the pictures. This one was one of the towns in Korea. There was very worn out, torn down, probably bombed a couple times. Very poor part of Korea. This was a grenade explosion on a train track. Right here was at the practice zone. They were shooting It was when they started settling into their troops. They were practicing their shooting, getting their weapons, etc. The troops on the move. They were always on the move, like I explained earlier. So this is an example. They're on the move, heading out. And this is at the war. This shows that it was a hard time. This is a picture like of guys, men hugging each other. It was a hard time sometimes. And they got hurt, and they missed their families. It was a hard time. This is a picture of my grandfather, John. This was about roughly 8 years ago. So he's a little bit older in this picture. And this is a picture also about 8 years ago, too, of him. And I haven't put these pictures on yet. And then, they'll be my board by then. But this is John with one of the generals. And right here, I have Korean money. It'll also be on the board. But this is Korean money. This was back then. This is the president, Sigmund Rhee. So it has like one of the like they had the president whenever their money is $100 bill, a $10 bill, and a $1 bill.
Wow.
This project has taught me to be patient and take time slowly, to be prepared at all times. John wasn't prepared to go into the Korean War. He was drafted into the war in 20 days to leave. This shows that I need to be prepared at all times, and I need to respect others. Before I did this project, I had no idea that my grandfather was in the war, that he lost his dad at age 12, he had an older sister, and that he went through some hard times in his life. I discovered a lot about my grandpa, and it really brought me to know that I should be appreciated for what I have, because I have a great loving family that cares about me, and John didn't have just the same thing when he was growing up. Thank you for listening to my presentation.